Wyoming, 1911. The city of Rawlins is known to be baseball mad, but this is a match like no other. That's because they're watching Wyoming State Penitentiary All-Stars, a team that features only the hardest of hardened criminals. And it's the highest possible stakes for a baseball game that you could ever imagine. Winning means time off their prison sentences. A loss, however, could result in death. So, when you told me about this blew my mind. It's one of the most interesting stories I've heard in a while. A baseball team playing for its life.
Yeah.
Back in the good old days of yore. So, who exactly were the Penitentiary All-Stars?
So basically, the Wyoming State Penitentiary All-Stars is this collection of like random convicts that included like the hardest of hardened criminals. Okay, so that includes rapists, murderers, thieves, forgers.
Yeah.
And the interesting part about this is that not only were they like this bunch of like people who happened to play baseball, but they're all like really, really good at it too. So basically, they were captained by this guy called Joseph Singh.
Okay.
It's no relation to Thomas Joseph or Yashraj Singh either. And so this guy is actually like their star. He's like their like star player or whatever. And their captain is a dude named George Saban.
Okay.
So this dude Joseph Singh, he was in prison because he had murdered his lover's husband. And
as they do,
you know, jilted lovers. Yeah. These things happen.
He was the OJ of his time.
Yeah, the OG. And George Saban was basically responsible for one of the most violent sheep raids in the history of Wyoming. So he killed like a whole bunch of like sheep herders because he was involved in the trade and everything. So these are like very violent criminals.
Any relation to Gareth Bale?
Yes, like but not the sheep shagging kind, just the sheep killing kind. Okay. So basically, like this is their team or whatever, right? And like why this game is even basically like allowed to even happen is because the city of fucking Rawlins is extremely hard on like punishment for criminals. Okay, so what they used to do back in the day was, like for criminals, they would sometimes skin them and then they would even sell their skin as souvenirs. So there's this one instance where they actually have this, I think in a museum or something, where they literally have a shoe that's been made from one of the prisoners' skin. Like that's how like batshit insane like the city of Rawlins is. But it's not like the warden or anything was, you know, like just some like crazy old dude or whatever, like, you know, who wanted this to happen. In fact, like by most accounts, he's this like really nice guy. He's pretty compassionate and stuff like that. And the only reason they had like this baseball game was because he is a huge baseball fan.
Right.
So he loved Ty Cobb and all of these guys, and he was in charge of the prison. So he decides to, you know, like use baseball as a kind of like rehabilitation method to kind of just help these prisoners, just get him some like, you know, physical education and stuff like that, right?
So was this his idea of kind of forgiving executions, or was he just going along with the higher powers who?
So at this point, he was not even in charge of like the executions and stuff like that. But like he just wanted them to like get better. And he just really liked baseball, and he wanted them, you know, how in prisons you have outdoor time and stuff like that, right? Yeah. So he basically said, like, we'll just have these guys play baseball together, and it'll be fun. I like it. It'll be good for them. They'll get some physical activity too. But basically what happens is he starts to like see them practice when they're like playing, and he goes like, fuck, dude, these guys are like really, really good. They're insanely good. So what he starts to do is he invites like local like teams to play against the prisoners now. And one of the teams is this company called the Wyoming Supply Company Juniors.
Okay.
And so basically their first game is now to play against the Supply Juniors.
Yeah. Okay, so the Wyoming Supply Company Juniors. Firstly, that's a very long name.
It's a mouthful, yes.
Yeah. I had a joke, but it's a very vile joke now. I was about to say, in prison, if they bend over, they also get a mouthful. So what happened? So game one's about to happen. What's going on with game one then?
So basically, game one happens, like the teams start to play each other,
Mm-hmm.
and again, like everyone realizes, dude, these guys are like really good, and they thrash they thrash the supply company juniors. Okay, so they win 11-1. And again, the star in this team is Joseph Singh, so he
Yeah.
hits like 2 home runs in the first game too, and because they're so good, like this starts to become like, it just starts to get like all this national interest. So even the Washington Post like puts out this article that says Slayer scores home runs. And because they're like, these guys, like not only are they all like criminals who are like playing for like their lives, but
Yeah.
also at this point, like, these guys are like ridiculously good. And there's already comparisons in the article where they're saying these guys are as good as the MLB players. So now there's all this like national interest, and like, like people start like coming to these games. But as we've done in a previous episode, as there's interest in the game, there's gambling money also.
Of course there is. Of course there is. Nobody knows that better than the White Sox.
Than the White Sox. And this is even before the White Sox.
Yep.
So these guys were the OG White Sox.
Yeah.
So there's now gambling money in, and that dude, the warden, his name is Felix Alston. This dude, basically, you would expect him to do the humane thing, right? Be like, there's this national attention and stuff. Maybe we should like suspend these games.
Yeah.
No, man, he thinks, you know what? How do I make money off this?
Dada, why?
Business.
So basically what he does is he sends in this letter to George Saban, who's the captain and who's also his friend. It's important to the story to mention that he was the one who actually arrested George Saban, but they were friends prior to this. So this guy also got like preferential treatment, and that's why he was the captain too. So he sends this letter through George Saban telling the prisoners that you guys, now you really need to win, and the way I'm going to do this is, if you start to win, then I'll reduce time off your sentences. And you can avoid execution. But if you lose, you're now like, there's going to be harsher punishments. And if your execution is there, then it stays. So his whole logic was, if they have the most to lose, they'll basically do the most to win. And that's like his actual quote.
I mean, it's kind of also fucked up because it's not an individual sport where you control your destiny.
Yeah.
You're dependent on the 8 other guys.
Who
the
are
9
now,
other guys,
literally the fate of your life is in their hands.
It's interesting concept. I think it's time we
It's high stakes baseball.
reintroduce some of these concepts in sports. I feel like players don't give enough nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. Due to these multi-million-dollar contracts and shit, like, play for your life, son.
Yeah.
So this basically, like, now these guys are like fucking stressed, right? Because they're like, fuck, if I don't perform, I'm going to die. And what happens is, the Joseph Singh is already a little stressed out because his actual execution is supposed to happen like 2 weeks later. And actually, interestingly enough, this is almost roughly around the same time when all of this happened. So it was in August, mid-August,
Okay.
when this is happening. So August 22nd, this guy is supposed to get executed. And he's now getting these additional threats also, but he's like, dude, I need to perform. But one of the people who's in prison with him, I think they are now starting to feel like, dude, like, this guy, like, he may not get executed because he's playing so well, and there's jealousy and infighting within the inmates themselves.
Yeah.
So this one dude, he literally tries to kill Joseph Singh by pushing like a really heavy box, like 25 feet above him, onto Joseph Singh. But like in like some real Cartoon Network style fashion, this dude happened to like just avoid it in time because like a guard had called him or something. So he just moved over and the box falls down like next to him, and he survives. But he's had an assassination attempt. He's about to get executed, and now he's stressed also with this letter that comes in.
I feel like this is a very good comedy movie in The Happening.
I do, but I know, and we probably shouldn't be fucking laughing at this. This is horrible, dude. You shouldn't be treating people like this.
Oh fuck, man, this is amazing.
So then what happens is they go into game 2.
Yeah.
And like this George Saban has like reamed all the players, basically saying, dude, you guys better perform and this and everything. And this dude is now literally, Joseph Singh is playing for his life, right? But dude has fucking ice in his veins, man. He goes 4 for 4 in that game, and they win 11-1 again.
Ooh.
So they thrash them again. And then in game 3, I think he goes 2 for 4. But again they win like 11-5. or something like that. So they're mysteriously like just always like getting this like score of 11 every single time. But then finally what happens is like game 4 like comes about order, and what happens is the governor, he basically starts to say like, dude, you know what, like there's too much gambling and all of that happening, and like these games should no longer be like allowed to happen,
Yeah.
like take place anymore. But the plot twist in all of this is that the governor himself was involved in the gambling. And then they found out later, not only was it the governor, it was the warden and George Saban also. This is the captain. Then so these guys literally are the OG White Sox.
Ooh.
Like all of them were involved in this whole thing from the get-go itself.
This is the best game, man. This is how why don't people talk about this?
Dude, I
This
know
is the
exactly,
best
dude.
game.
When I actually found out about this thing from a meme, and I was like, dude, what the hell? And I looked it up, and then dude, there's a book written about this, and then I think there's a documentary about it too. And yeah, so basically then this happens, and then they decide to like call the games off and stuff like that. And the warden, he goes like, you know what, like it's too much, like this physical education and this order. Let's just do regular education, with books and libraries at the prison. And everyone hails him as a hero. They're like, oh, well done,
Oh,
Felix
man.
Alston. So yeah, dude, and then basically worse shit basically happens right after then. But at this point, so like this physical education is removed, and that's the last baseball game they ever played. And there's these kind of accounts where these guys actually say that at the end of it, the inmates were so happy that they didn't need to like play for their lives anymore, that they all like got together and they gifted him a gold watch. And I was like, dude, what is
How much were these prisoners earning back in the day?
I have no idea, man.
But was there a happy ending? Was there a this whole fairy tale? Was there a good ending to this?
Dude, not at all, man. One of the Joseph Singh ended up getting executed like a few weeks later. And quite a few of them, they were pretty much on death row anyway.
Oh.
So most of them ended up getting executed in the end anyway.